Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Canadian Bowlers Behind the Bowl segment. I am your host, Alex Scott, and today I have the ultimate pleasure of chatting with two of Canada's finest, the dynamic sister duo from Nova Scotia, Jackie Foster and Tammy Foster-Veinot. Ladies, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having
Thanks for having us, Alex.
How's things out east today?
Things are great here in Nova Scotia. We saw clear ground again after a little bit of snow earlier in the week. Went from sandals back to winter boots for a couple days, but looks like we're back on track for spring.
Good. Well, I'm super excited to talk to you two today because we have some catching up to do. It was a very long winter. Kind of excited to pick your brain a little bit, shoot some questions to you, and we'll go from there.
Good.
So I want to know, first of all, I think the audience would like to know too, how long have you both been playing bowls for, and what clubs are you representing right now?
So I think I first threw a bowl back in I'm going to say 87, Jackie. Does that sound about right? 86?
Yeah, probably.
I was like 14, 15 years old, and my mom actually organized a junior program. It was much less organized than it is now, and learned a few skills, but that was for a couple of summers max, I think, and then came back to the game in 2005 or 6. And I represent the Bridgetown Lawn Bowling Club in Nova Scotia.
Nice.
And I, Alex, as you know, I'm the much younger sister, so I was probably only about 10 when I threw my first bowl.
Yeah.
And that was in Bridgetown, of course. Just joking, sissy. But I am the younger sister. And I guess same thing. I mean, life got in the way. We got involved in lots of things like swimming. That was a big sport for us growing up. And we both worked at the pool and were lifeguards. So we kind of got away from it for some time. And then interestingly enough, we both started, I was in Fredericton at the time and started and it was actually Jeff Mulhern, you may recall.
Yes,
You might remember Jeff from New Brunswick, a wonderful man. I ran into him at the Fredericton Curling Club, or the Capital Winter Curling Club, the year that I was working at Fredericton. And he said, "We're going to get you back bowling next summer." And I'm ever at the Fredericton Lawn Bowling Club the next summer. And that's how it all started. And just interesting that we started, Tammy and I, at the same time, just in different provinces.
Yeah. It's true, and this is after many, many years of coaxing from her mom. We finally gave in.
Yeah, I feel that. I think I started around a similar age, like 10 or 11, and shoulder shrugged, had other sports going on, and then 2 years later, I got roped back in, and the rest was kind of history. So, so when did you realize that you both wanted to play more competitively? Obviously, you both have a very strong track record, and was there a specific moment in time that kind of kick-started that desire for you?
I don't know if it was a desire originally for me or if it was the kick. Mom had stepped down from the national scene, I think in 2005, when her longtime pairs partner, Annette Tidd, retired. I think 2004 was their last year. Is that right, Jackie? Something like that. Anyway, they left with the gold. They were coming back, I think, from Vancouver, and Annette said, "I'm done. I'm hanging up my shoes." So Mom was just kind of kind of left, and we joined the game with her. And of course, she wanted to get back to nationals, so we just kind of went along for the ride those first few years. And we often, we went to Montreal in 2007, I think it was our first year. And we say Mom had quite a drought when she started out with us. She had many, many years without a medal, but didn't matter to her. So I guess that's where the desire and then the competitiveness for me developed along the journey.
For sure. And actually, I think Tammy did a couple of, or at least one Atlantic Bowl with Mom, maybe another player before I came back to Nova Scotia. I moved back in 2005. But same thing. I mean, it was really Mom was our reason. She wanted to bowl, and she was willing to take on the two chumps, and we tarnished that decorated record for a number of years. But probably the highlight was in 2006. We played the provincial playdowns in our hometown of Bridgetown,
Oh, cool.
and we won. And I'll never forget, and I'm sure Tammy, you can still picture it too. Mom jumped
Yeah,
so far in the air, and she came down and landed on her butt. And it was just the sheer joy on her face and knowing how much it meant to her. Yeah, it was pretty special. So that was the start. And then
but
I think we come from a competitive family, so that was
Right.
just enough to
just
get
so
the
you,
juices going.
I was thinking the same thing. I think that first nationals, we won 3 games out of 8, but I wanted to say on the competitive piece too, Alex, Monopoly is officially banned in our home.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we just can't play it. So the
Yeah.
competition comes naturally to us.
Yeah, I feel that I'm not allowed to play Risk anymore either for similar domination purposes. So I get it.
Even
So
cards can get a little spicy. It's
it
pretty bad.
can.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think once you're a competitor, you're kind of just that nature for the rest of your life, honestly.
Yeah.
Even as something as simplistic as cards. So that's good. So did you guys start playing together at the same time? Or
We did.
like around that same area and you were just kind of latched and the rest is sort of history?
Yeah, like Jackie said, I think I played one Atlantic Bowl prior to, and then we developed a fours team, and there were a few occasions in our province where pairs came first. I know one year Jackie and Mum qualified pairs. Another year, Berna Murray and I won pairs, and Jackie played fours with Mum. And then Jackie and we played pairs one year in Saskatoon, I think, actually. But otherwise, it's been fours every year.
Right.
And
Yeah.
yeah, three
Quite
of
the
us.
forest, quite the forest team too, I must say.
Thank you.
So you guys were just talking about how competitive your nature is. Did you ever have a sibling rivalry when you two were out on the greens together? Were you always trying to like one up each other or was that
Never.
Yeah.
complimentary or competitive?
Always.
Yeah.
Alex, always. I would have a shot in there and she'd come in and push me out just because she wanted to be the one close. It was actually a bit of a running joke.
I'm
Don't
not sure that's
deny it.
completely accurate,
Don't
but we'll
deny
go with
it.
it.
And
It would only
I
be a
met
touch so that we both counted, actually.
right.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So complimentary to an extent,
Right.
but
That's
mostly
all.
like, I'm gonna beat you, sister. This is my game. Okay, good, good. I'm curious though, like you guys have played a lot of complimentary bowling together over the years. Obviously family plays a big part of that. But were there ever any like roadblocks or obstacles that ever like stalled your development as a competitive player? Or did it just sort of work seamlessly?
I, I, if you want to jump in, I don't think anything's ever seamless when when you continue to strive to get better. Obviously, we come from a small province, and sometimes the competition pool isn't as big as other provinces. So, um, it's a lot of training. It's a lot of trying to get games in and that sort of thing. But I think no matter where you are, it's about putting the time in.
Right.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
Um, do you play anything in the winter time? How do you to occupy your time in the winter as far as like training goes, or is it more just like reps? Like I do a lot of ghosting reps in my basement, like all winter long, and just trying to like keep those mechanics fresh. And I sort of
Delivery.
like
Mm.
go through different like mental mindset things. But other than that, we don't have a lot over here too.
I guess, like you say, just keeping the delivery motion and those kinds of things.
Okay.
Yeah, no indoor. One of the things I like to do to keep the rust off, is just hold the bowl, have a bowl in your hand if you're sitting on the couch. And again, just going through that motion of a delivery, uh, just kind of keeps your mind in it where you can't physically be on the green.
Yeah, I've been a lot more mindful over the years, especially during the long winter months, to do similar things like that because I used to start out so slow when the season started, and it would take me a good like 2 weeks, but now it's like second session, it's like riding a bike and you're sort of back in that game mode. And I think those little subtle things that you both mentioned is very important for just like staying in that zone all year round as well.
Well, Canada's a good curling country too, and we love curling, and we're always involved growing up in that too. So even just
Yeah.
I find watching the Scotties and watching the Brier and the Worlds just recently.
Yeah,
Just the team dynamics, hearing the stories about that the commentators tell just kind of gets you thinking and keeps the mind going.
awesome. Love it. So I know two of you, like you both play the game very differently. Um, you likely see it differently too, and that's just how players operate. They all have their strengths, they all have their things that they need to work on. What do you both see as your most defined trait when you're out on the greens?
I don't know. I think I'm a little humble when it comes to talking about things like that, but I guess my teammates would probably say that over the years, my confidence has grown in my ability to be accurate on hits. And so that's kind of I really enjoy those big moments, those big hits to kind of change, either shake up the head or convert or whatever it happens to be, and then to come in behind it with a draw to an off-center jack or to a ditch bowl or that kind of thing. Those
Right.
are kind of the things that make my blood pump.
Yeah,
And
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 it
a
can be
lot
the
of
spark
times
on the team too. It can be the
it
spark on the
does.
team
Sometimes
too.
if we're just in a slump and things just aren't going well, I'm like, just let me
Yeah.
try this. And I've had the great fortune of playing with girls that are just like, we have confidence in you, just go for it. And sometimes that's all we need to just get a little bit of a boost and turn the game around if we're struggling. Doesn't always work, but
no,
it certainly can. I would say that would be probably my preferred,
okay,
what I feel most confident in.
good. How about you, Jackie?
I love lead. I love to I love to draw, which is kind of funny because on our force team, I've moved up to the third position with Tammy after.
How do you both mentally prepare when you're faced with that sort of pressure match? And does it get easier to win after you sort of get over the hump and get that first gold, or is your mentality the same all the time?
I don't think it should ever get easier.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. It's
Yeah.
it's an interesting question, Alex, and we've talked about this, anticipated this question actually. And to be completely honest with you, and Jackie, please jump in, but we went to nationals last year. We really pushed ourselves to go, and we really just wanted to enjoy the experience. So I didn't really think that we were there mentally. Um, but I think it proved to me that that is something that's really strengthened for me over the years, is that confidence and that mental focus that you need to have in a game. Because quite honestly, we really just wanted to get out last year. We did some, we went to New Brunswick, we went to Pobo, we went to a couple of fun tournaments just because we wanted to get a love of the game back. And
Gotcha.
yeah, so I'm not really sure. We had no expectations. Obviously, wanted to go and do our best, and we're competitive, and we're going to play our hardest every game. But I think maybe, and Jack, you can speak to this too. But given the five-a-side format, I think maybe we shook that off in the pairs. We struggled a bit more in the pairs for this, and
Yeah.
kind of went from there. But I don't think we entered the tournament as mentally strong as we may have been in the past. Would you agree with
Well,
that, Jack?
yeah, I mean, I don't think there's no question that, obviously we had just lost mom and
Yeah.
there was honestly a period of time that I didn't know if I wanted to bowl again. She said, Jacqueline, sorry. She said, Jacqueline, don't be like
Right.
that. She said, you might have to take a little time away, but you love the game. Don't give up on it. And, so we, like Tammy said, I mean, we went to nationals um, with heavy hearts.
Of course.
And it was the first time we were seeing so many of mom's friends and our friends for the first time. So there were lots of tears at the beginning. And even when we were bowling, I always said the emotions were just under the surface the whole time. So I
Yeah.
don't think there's any question. I mean, we started out pretty rough in pairs. Tammy and I were excited to play pairs, but yeah, just couldn't get anything going. And then, we got into, the flip side of that emotion is, I think one of our strengths would be resiliency. And, in 2022, when we won our first gold medal, it came 3 months after we lost our dad. So again, there was lots
Gotcha.
of emotion. So going into this, I mean, it was a similar situation in terms of a loss of another parent, but it was our mom who we had been alongside the whole time, and we had never been to nationals without her before. So it was just all of that accumulating going. We just started going, and then I think we probably flipped that energy to say, we're going to do this for mom.
Yeah.
And just heads down and went. And then it was just at the end, this really big release.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Someone has their own journey when they're everything for the first or the second time. And obviously yours carries a lot more weight in these circumstances. But so I appreciate your candid answer on that. I'm going to pivot a little bit. Jackie, I have a few things that I'd like to discuss with you regarding your Team Canada journey.
Okay.
You've represented Team Canada countless times over the years. And how did that journey start for you? What was your first event when you were actually chosen to rep Canada?
So I guess it started in 2011. I believe that was training camp in Arizona. And the first event I went to was in Adelaide, Australia, the Asia Pacific Games in 2011. So that's what kicked it off. And yeah, I've had a great run. I've been very fortunate to have been selected to go to the different events over the years. And I can honestly say it's not something you ever take for granted because you go into each one thinking that it could be your last. So you never take it for granted. But I've bowled with some great people and some great teams and had some highs and some lows. And,
Yep.
it's just been a great experience.
Awesome. I think that's when we first met each other on that kind of stage, was that same training camp, I believe, with Lachlan.
Right. Yes,
Yeah.
that's right. It was.
What was your proudest moment with Team Canada? Was it like a victory or more of a moral victory for you?
Probably 2018 and 2019 were really good years. And I say that because at the 2018 Commonwealth Games, it was fourth across the board, and it was a really good showing. And, the best showing for women. And then to go back in 2019 and, be right there again. And it was the start of that climb. And I think I was just most proud of, there was more consistency. We were showing up and we were giving those, traditionally those top countries really good games. And it wasn't just, oh, this is Canada. It was, oh, this is Canada.
Yeah.
And so I'm really proud about that. I'll share one memory from 2018. And while it was so disappointing, and that was in Australia at the Commonwealth Games, our forest team was playing Australia in the semifinals. And it went to an extra end, and we lost in an extra end, and we were all gutted. I mean, it was so disappointing. But at the same time, for me, it just validated the work and the commitment, and not just of our team but of the program, and to see the strides that were being made. So while it was rooted in disappointment, at the same time it was just proud of seeing the overall result and then building on that the next year.
Right. Canada is recognized as a very accomplished country now, and I think that's just a testament to all the performance committee has put in, the coaching, all the athletes. It's good. It's good to see.
And everyone who's come before us, the
Yeah,
foundation.
that's right. Yeah, for sure. Was there ever a moment where you felt like you didn't belong on that stage, like a moment of vulnerability I'm curious about? Or were you always just kind of like, I worked hard and I got this done and here I am?
If you asked your neighbor, Harriet Patulli, she would tell you a story about one
Okay.
of my first times away. And I mean, I just felt like a fish out of water.
Right.
And we were in Adelaide and it was breakfast. I was sitting, having some breakfast, and she came over and sat beside me and she just gave me a pep talk. And she knew by looking at me how I was feeling, or perhaps, she had been there at one time herself. But she just kind of took me under her wing and gave me the pep talk and gave me some confidence. And yeah, so absolutely, that's been something that I've had to work on, is the confidence over the years, and feeling like I do belong, or that I did deserve an opportunity. Um, so yeah, Harriet will remember that well.
Good. I mean, athletes and friends can be unofficial coaches too. Like, I think that's what makes team play so special.
Absolutely. I think of people like Harriet. I think of people like Mom, because obviously Mom was such a good reason to talk to in those situations as well, because she had been away internationally. And,
Yeah,
that motivates me now, as being someone who's been around a while, to try to offer that same support to others, who might be
right,
starting out or who might be having a bad day, to just give them, pay that back to them as it was given to me over the years.
for sure. And when you're on that stage, I mean, there's always going to be a feeling of pressure in certain moments. Do you embrace pressure, or do you just kind of accept that it's there and you go about your business? I'm always curious on how different people interpret their environments during some like tenser moments.
Well, there is a saying that the only pressure is the pressure you put on yourself. And I do believe that. And for me, I think, of course, you want to win, and if you don't make a shot, you feel like beating yourself up. But for me, it's always going back to the basics and really focusing on that pre-delivery routine and just being in the moment. If for nothing else, for those 15 seconds or for however long your pre-delivery routine starts to when you get on the mat and deliver that bowl. And then after that, if you have, if your mind wanders, but just to always, I just always really try to keep myself focused and in the moment. And I love I love the big games, and but I've learned to self-talk. I've learned, different techniques to just keep myself calm.
Where is that nice little balance where I can be intense and ready, but also carry over the next end and keep the play going too. So
And I think it's good for the team. You need to have some of that excitement too, right? Like,
that's
just
right.
to pump people up and everything. So
Yeah.
it is definitely a balance. You're right, Alex.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as far as like vocal and pumping people up, you're one of the pros in that regard. So it's really good.
Touche, Tammy. Don't say anything.
I agree with him, actually.
Look, I will, as long as I'm on the green, I will keep Mom's memory alive.
You'll be
Good.
heard.
Yeah.
So I acknowledge you're still working on like representing Canada. That is still in your near future right now. Um, is there any steps that BCB needs to take to further develop their athletes, or are you finding that we're in a really good spot right now? I know as an organization, you're always looking to expand and get your athletes better, but is there anything that you can pinpoint that you would like to see that might continue to move this game a bit more forward on a competitive level?
Um, in fairness, I mean, I had taken the last couple of years, I've stepped back a little bit. I've been involved with the team. I've done my reporting. I've attended meetings and that sort of thing. But I haven't been, on the green with the other squad members for the last couple of years. But I think just overall, when I look at um, the program when I started to where it is now, and some of the changes and the work with the nutritionist and um, the mental prep. And I bought into that right away because I believe in the fitness and the nutrition and just that mental prep. So all of that is great. And I mean, obviously there are challenges with um, funding and things like that that perhaps
Mhm.
do create some, well, challenges. Things are changing internationally in terms of the formats of play,
Yeah.
which will create some interesting dynamics, when it comes to opportunities and things moving forward. But I just think what can be controlled in terms
Yeah.
of the support staff, the coaching, the different things that have been put in place. So it's great.
Who's the funniest person on Team Canada?
Funniest person.
Yeah. Who makes you giggle the most?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. I laugh at my own jokes. I'm known to tell a few jokes. Most people don't laugh at them. They laugh at me because I'm laughing at myself. So I might be kind of funny. I don't think I'm the funniest though.
You're
That's my
pretty
way
funny.
of dodging the question because I can't
Yeah.
think. I know as soon as, you go on to another question, I'll think of who I think the funniest is. But
Well, we can circle back at the end if you're like, that's the guy that made me cackle, or that's the gal that's, yeah, don't worry about it. Um, who do you look up to the most during your Team Canada journey over the years? I know you mentioned Harriet as a kind of like a mentor. Any shout outs you'd like to?
goodness, I should have thought about this one again. I know I'll kick myself after. I mean, there are so many people. I mean, obviously my mom, obviously Harriet. There were too many probably to name. I think of Shirley Fitzpatrick Wong and Clarice and,
Mhm.
the family, just how supportive they've been. And people from other countries too. And
Yeah, that's a
just
good call.
just people from other countries who you get to know from going to some of the events and the conversations that you have, or just watching how they deliver, watching their demeanor on the green, the things you pick up during competition. And I mean, that was what I like. I always went trying to be a sponge. So you learn from the people around you, you're picked up from the people around you and supported. And then you
Right.
go away and you see someone who that you like what you see in terms of how they carry themselves both on and off the greens, or you like their delivery, or you say, gee, they're so consistent. What are they doing? And you kind of study them and you see what works for you. So I guess those are kind of the things, and the people who have helped me along the way.
Awesome. I have one other question for you before we pivot to Tammy. Um, what's your next goal with the national squad? What are you striving for next?
I still have the fire in my belly, and as long as that's there, I'm just going to keep my head down and do my very best. Like I said, I mean, it sounds cliche, but it's so true. Like you just don't take these opportunities for granted. You
Right.
treat each one like it's going to be your last. 2022, when we went to Commonwealth, it was a disappointing year for me on the international stage. Um, the day after we arrived, I tested positive for COVID. I was whisked away
Right.
to a hotel across town, separated from everyone, and I was only released, I think, the last day of practice before the games began. And I was one of, like, what did they say, like 5 or 10% of the people who keep testing positive, even though you're past that period. So I was masked up. I couldn't go to the meal hall until I think the day before we left.
Oh man.
So it was just, and I didn't perform well. So that was a real disappointment for me. So I just hope to have another opportunity that I can just go out and just do better, and get back to where I was. So that's my goal, I guess, just knowing what I can do and working as hard as I can to get back to where I was.
Love it. Thank you for your answers. Tammy, I would like to now pick your brain about your own Bulls journey.
Okay.
Now that I've heard Jackie's journey, I I know more about Jackie's than you, and I'm very curious on like you've really come into your own these past few years as a player. I mean, you're a two-time national champion already in the last 3 years. How did you hone your own craft to get to this point of competition?
Well, I think you alluded to it. It was alluded to earlier in the interview when Jackie spoke of, coming from a small town. We do have a lot of competitive players in a small club of under 30, but playing the same people, you really need to put in the time. Um, Actually, from Jackie and from Mom and their international and national experience, about the importance of training, because when I first started, it was just games, tournaments, and that kind of thing. And so I really understood. And when I started to do the training myself and practice what I was preaching from the coaching side of things, and it was just, I think, putting in the time, just going out and throwing goals by myself,
Yep.
going down to coach, but setting up the drills and doing them myself before the kids got there or staying afterward, like that kind of thing. Just putting in the time. And then I think through my coaching experience as well, and seeing how successful some of the athletes were, and just learning from them and their experiences and what they got through their competitions and that kind of thing, and just, I guess, taking it more seriously
Right.
and wanting to not just be there, but to really do the best that I could and represent my province well. And yeah, I think that's where it came from, just putting in the time.
Good. Love it. So you do primarily play the skip position. Um,
Too.
what is your favorite part of assuming that role?
That's an interesting question. I think this is going to sound maybe off, but I really enjoy the pressure. I
Right?
really, and that's grown on me over the years, but I really enjoy watching the setup. Or the great Steve Bezanson told me once that pressure is a privilege. I think it came from the big Billie Jean King, didn't it? The tennis player. And I've always felt that privilege and that gratitude to be in that position and to have the confidence of the girls before me, and just have confidence in their abilities to set up a great head for me. And yeah, I think that would be my takeaway there.
I've never heard that quote, and that's a great one.
Pressure is a
Pressure.
privilege. I'm not sure if it was
Yeah.
the great Augie or the great Bezanson, but it was one of the Steve. We hear
Well,
it every time we get into some kind of, if we get into a final game or that kind of thing. They're really great supporters. And yeah, and I love that. Pressure is a privilege. It's just a privilege to be out there and play. And you know what? You're going to do your best no matter what. You're not going to win every game. You're not going to make every shot, but just enjoy the privilege of being there and the pressure that it puts on you to make those big shots.
and you're also sort of talking about how your team develops ahead for you. When you get to that level of competition as a skip, do you find that shot calling and like building come naturally to you, or did you really have to like work on that craft to like be a confident skip up there?
I had to work on that craft. I started in the vice position alongside my mom. And then with Jackie's international spirit experience, when we started playing together, she would bring different, tactics to the table, things that I hadn't thought about, and things that and it was always just a suggestion. What about this? And Lorraine Bezanson, who's played with us for a number of years. There's just always Anita Knox, who played with us for many years. I've just always had very strong girls in front of me, and
Yeah.
it's always there making me think about a head a different way. So I think it's all that collective experience that's really strengthened my ability to, and I have a lot more confidence calling a game now. I've played with these girls long enough now that I know what their strengths are. I know the shots they like to make. And so that helps a lot too, to have that kind of compatibility and familiarity with your teammates to be able to call a good game for them.
For sure. And yeah, I found that never came naturally to me either. I think, I mean, everyone disagrees on certain shot selections,
Mhm.
even now after bowling for 20 plus years. Everyone has their own field of vision on what's going on, and some are more conservative, some are more aggressive. So it's team dynamics, very fascinating. I asked Jackie this similar question, but was there ever a moment for you where you questioned if this game was for you? Or were you always just kind of on that trajectory to just keep pushing yourself forward?
Honestly, I think, Alex, once I got my feet wet, those first couple of nationals, there wasn't really any turning away from me. Yeah, I think my desire to do better and to get on the podium just grew. And
Yep.
of course, I had to step back from some opportunities because there were other things that were going on in our lives that were more important over a couple of years. But I think I always knew I'd be back in. The love for the game was just too great to step away.
Yeah, that's
We're fighters,
honestly,
so
that's
we're gonna knock over those barriers.
yeah, that's right. That's right. I don't think anyone should ever doubt themselves personally, but it creeps in the more higher the stakes become. So it's interested on people's vulnerabilities and stuff like that.
I've been asked that question a lot, and it maybe earlier when I started, which is odd because I don't feel that I had the same level of skill at that point.
Right.
But I don't know if you know, but I am a teacher. That's my profession. I'm in administration now, and
Okay. I
we
didn't know
have
that.
summers. Yeah, so we have summers off. So it would be the ability to get the kind of time off during the year for different competitions that's a struggle for me. So I never, no, I never did put my name forward. I did think about it, but I thought, I couldn't commit the way one would expect to, I think, time-wise, and never really, I don't think, believed that I belonged at that level. So I never did. I thought about it a few times, and then you get older and you think, yeah, it's too late now.
Well, I mean, two golds in 3 years. Like,
Yeah.
there's never a too late time in this sport, I find. So
And to be quite honest, in the last 5 or 6 years, I've really, well, for several years, but more seriously lately, I'm really enjoying the coaching side of things. So, because that's always been a big part of my journey as well as the coaching piece. So
good. Love
maybe
it.
I'll have some opportunities there.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so I know I asked this question with Jackie too, and your mother played a very large influence in your bowls game.
Mm.
Do you have any other bowls role models that sort of stood out over the years for you personally?
Yeah, like you said, definitely mom, definitely Jackie. Our late grandfather, paternal grandfather, was also a bowler who got my mom started. So I've bowled with so many amazing people from other provinces. Like I just think of all the people, Anita Navala and the Fitzpatrick Wongs and Harriet, who's Jackie's already mentioned, Jean Roney, Mary
Yeah,
Wright, so many people that I've learned so many little things from over the years. So in many ways, they've all kind of inspired me to improve my game. I
yeah,
can't really nail one specific thing for each of them, but I've just played against them for so many years that you can't not learn through osmosis, right? You're just learning all the time, and they all inspire me. And then, I mean, how can we not mention Ryan Bester, right? Like
yeah.
incredible. I'm inspired by, Braden, who I coached for years, and how well he did and will continue to do, I'm sure, once he gets back in the game. Like there's just lots of people that I take motivation from and look up to in the game.
I'm totally with you. Yeah, it's a journey, that's for sure. Know someone for 20 years that you've looked up to, and then you find a new person that just comes and stumbles into your life the following year for the first time, and they end up having a genuine impact on you too. So it's like we can play this sport forever, and we already sort of have been. So it's really neat. That's been one of the greatest parts of being a lawn bowler. I could probably speak for everyone. It's just the people that you meet once you get to a certain level, and
100%.
the friendships that are forged, and just like they're there forever, and it's really neat. It's cool.
Pretty powerful.
Yeah. So I'm gonna bring both of you back now because I would like your mama bear. You've already both touched on how great of an impact um that she had on your bowls journey in very different ways, probably too. Um, she was celebrated. She was a highly respected person pretty much across Canada. Like, she was a very reputable woman as well, and created a career for herself. But was she always just the mama bear role during your Bulls journey? Was there ever like a hard coaching moment? Or I'm just curious to get to know what impact she had on you a bit more in depth as far as personality goes and whatnot.
I would say a little bit of both. She could definitely be tough on us when we weren't tilling the line. Um, yeah, she gave us a good scolding when we needed it and
Okay.
deserved it.
Yeah.
Jackie more so than I. I was more the compliant sister. Um, but definitely just the genuine support and the genuine love for the game that she passed to us, and the belief in ourselves that, like, she believed in us so much and taught us to really believe in ourselves and to, just go out there and, yeah, we're going to do our best, but we're also going to have fun. She always kept the game, and anybody that knows Mom knows how fiercely competitive she was, but she always had fun on the green too. And she always made us feel comfortable and, at ease, and she made us have fun too. So those are the biggest things I want to say, I guess.
Yeah, we definitely learned from the best. Mom, she bowled for 40 years, you know,
Yeah.
and she always tells the story that she'd sit and watch our grandfather, which was on her dad's side. One day, I don't know if weak moment, but she said, I tried it and I've never taken the bowl out of my hand. And then it just led to this wonderful, you know, so many years, so many opportunities and friendships, and she was very decorated and worked hard when she was on the national team. And
Yeah.
yeah, just we got our competitiveness from her for sure. Like Tammy said, she kept us in line.
Yeah.
Um, but at the end of the day, there was nothing she was more proud of than to be out there with us. And it was pretty special. And I know, many people listening to this, that's one thing with bowls. There seems to be so many family connections. And it's a
Yeah.
sport that you can do with your family members when you're able to, play at provincial or nationally with those you love.
100%. Thank you. She always seemed so calm and ready when she was playing, for the handful of times that I've witnessed her play anyway. What sort of player was she during like a tense match? Like, I know you kind of all went about your business, and like, was there ever anything that was kind of bring like the crossover? Did she ever pull you guys aside and just be like, this is what we need to do? Or was she just business as usual? I'm just curious what she was like behind the
Well,
scenes for.
one thing I remember being lead when I first started, if I threw a jack and I didn't reach it with my first bowl, she said, never throw. If you're going to throw a jack that long, you better reach it. Yeah, that's one of my memories.
I remember those comments to you for sure. um, I I don't know if Mom was maybe easier on me than you in the head. I don't know, because I was kind of learning as I was going, where you were a little bit more experienced, and so she was kind of that teacher in my ear and pointing things out to me more than disciplining as she would with you. Uh, no, I can't think of anything specific, Alex.
Well,
Just
here's
always very motivating for sure.
Right.
yeah.
Obviously in those first several years, we missed more shots than we made, but there was never a time where she made us feel like we didn't belong there, or that, what am I doing out here with these clowns? That kind of thing. She was just always very in the moment, like you say, passing on the green or
Right.
talking in the head. She was always very supportive, and she would have an ability to just make me laugh and lift me up a little bit. But there was always that time off the green too, when it was the time, not during the game, but off the green, we'd kind of debrief and talk about shots and situations and maybe risks that we took that we shouldn't, or those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So it was constantly learning and supporting.
And we also learned from her stories,
Mm.
from her
Sure.
early days when she and Annette, I mean, they became a pretty powerful duo out there on the greens. but you know, it wasn't always that way. And she would say, you know, she went to her first nationals and she got beat on, you know, long jacks. So she'd come home and she'd practice long jacks. And then the next year she'd go and
Right.
she'd be beat on short jacks and she'd come home and she'd practice it. So we learned through stories like that, where she learned from being around that and from hearing those stories and following suit.
So hearing all of that about your mother and like the influence she had, was Burlington 2022 when you won the fours together. Was that the crowning achievement for you guys, or where does that stick in the Hall of Fame moments, I guess?
At the top.
Yeah.
100% at the top, because we've been working for that since 2007. And I
Right.
think at that time, we didn't have mom's diagnosis until December that year after Burlington. But Jackie and I think, knew when we reflected later that there was something off with mom that summer. She, you know, I mean, and she went to that nationals and she played her heart out, but sure, it was during one of the last games in the round robin. She had sort of a heat stroke moment or something. Remember, Jackie? She had to
Yeah.
sit and she sat out, and we kind of worried that she wouldn't finish that game, but she, you know, she took a short break and she was right back in there. And so to come out, and like Jackie said, we had lost our dad. Like, there was just all kinds of things going on, and we didn't know at the time when we were on that podium that would be the last time we'd stand on a podium or on a national surface with mom in a bowls event. So definitely at the top of the list.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it
I
meant,
mean, the moment that we won,
Yeah.
you know, just the joy. And now, you know, think that 4 months later, mom received a terminal diagnosis pretty much out of the blue. Um, and to just reflect on just 4 months ago, she was out there
Right.
bawling her heart out, and we want to go, you know, we said tarnished her record over the years. But she went out on top where she
that's where
deserved
she
to be.
wanted to be at, where she deserved to be.
Yeah.
And
Love it.
it was a privilege to be there with her.
Good. Thank you for sharing that. So obviously, you could tell how impactful she was in the bowls community. Just I wasn't there personally in Victoria the following year in 23, but you could just see the celebration and all the pictures, just people coming together, and that's community in bowls.
Mhm.
So what does this community mean to you in general? Like,
I
It's
think it means go ahead, Jackie, sorry.
just going to say it's funny because over the years, for so many years, we would hear stories of all of these wonderful individuals. And, you know, we knew them through mom, but we didn't actually know them. And then when we got the opportunity to play with mom and to start going away and meeting all of these wonderful friends whom mom had made, and they welcomed us into their circles as well. Um, you know, you think that you can look across the country and you have friends in every province, and it's wonderful. And then, you know, to circle it back, you know, going back last year without mom and the love and support that was shown to us. You know, first in 2023, the love and support that was shown to mom when she was there cheering her little heart out. And then last year when we went back without her, and just the love, you know, so it's pretty.
yeah. Honestly, community is always why I play this game first and foremost. I think it's just the celebration, the bonds that are created, as we sort of touched on earlier. And you know, like you can win a tournament here and there, but when you have those memories and those celebrations together, like that's kind of what sticks with you until the end of time. So that's why it is such a beautiful sport to play as well.
But it's great with some of the tournaments that are different provinces are trying, like last year, you know, Tammy and I had the great opportunity to go out to Regina and play with Anita
Yeah,
Navala from Saskatchewan and
yeah.
Shirley Fitzpatrick Wong from Manitoba. Like, how often do you get to do that? and it was wonderful. It was such a great experience and so much fun, and bowlers from everywhere. But it's so nice to see some of these tournaments happening where
Yeah.
you can do that. It's wonderful.
Absolutely. You compete against these girls for years and then suddenly you have an opportunity to play alongside them, and it was just amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm hoping to play with my sister for the first time in like 15 years later this summer. So
Awesome.
for similar reasons, it's just like, sure, we can have grudge match sibling rivalries until we're 7 years old, but how often do we actually get to play with each other? So
Yeah.
you guys are the exact same way, as you want to keep playing with each other and win too. So cool. Thank you for talking about that. I realize that's a sensitive topic, but one that's embraced as well, because she was such a great influence on you too. So appreciate your candidness on that. So we're gonna get into just a couple final talking points here to finish our segment. 30 things do you guys do back home?
So my guilty pleasure, which I'm sure everybody in my family would agree with, is Hallmark Christmas movies.
Okay.
Yeah,
Like
I'm
the
Great,
right
Jack?
there. Yeah,
B-rated
oh,
versions.
absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Love it.
Rated G.
Jackie, you got anything on the side that's just kind of like your thing?
I'll share if you
Oh,
don't.
no, I mean, the thing that comes to mind that everybody probably knows about me is Friday night wine and pizza.
Every Friday.
Well, not every Friday.
Okay. I
Yeah,
like
not
it.
every, more than it is in recent year. It has been in recent years, but yeah, good
She's
old
also a
Friday night.
closet, sorry.
No,
She's also
go,
a closet dancer, Alex.
a closet dancer.
You know what? That doesn't shock me. I've had a
No,
couple
probably
dances
shouldn't.
with Jackie over the years.
Well, you know the saying, like sing like nobody's listening, dance like. Actually, I will admit that just this week I was sweeping the floor and Footloose came on the radio, and I might have started dancing around a little bit
Yeah.
like nobody was watching. And thankfully, nobody was watching.
I'm kind of sad no one was watching, honestly. Um, do you have a favorite movie of all time?
Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, yeah. So I like she mentioned Footloose, Dirty Dancing, Grease. I like kind of all those
Mm,
music
Oh, Pretty
shows.
Woman,
Pretty
Tam.
Woman was Mom's favorite.
That was
Yeah, we
Mom's.
watched that several times. Yeah.
love it.
And my husband really likes action movies, so I have to get a shout out to some of those too, I guess.
Yeah. Favorite musician of all time?
Oh, that's hard.
What's your, or a handful, what's your
Oh,
go-to when you need to pick me up in the music scene?
I love 80s music.
Yeah.
Who Fleetwood Mac, I don't know, Prince.
Love Prince too.
I love country, so Keith Urban. I'd have to say Keith Urban.
Okay.
Love Bruno Mars,
Mhm.
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Get some
just
of her
we
dance
both.
moves from Bruno. Pretty eclectic. I think on my playlist I'd have pretty much anything but opera. Not a whole lot of rap, but I like Eminem, like just everything. Love music.
Yeah. I'm with you on that. It's if I need time to myself or like I'm working from home, the first thing I'm doing is putting on a coffee and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's no kids here. I'm cranking whatever album comes to mind and just get that 40 minutes of pure music. Um, what makes you tick? You may interpret that however you wish.
Hmm.
Wow. What makes me tick?
Mm-hmm.
But just like hobbies, passions, that kind of thing,
Yeah,
or
anything. It could be a negative tick, a positive tick.
I'm gonna
What
keep it
makes you
positive. Um, I like gardening. I
okay?
like bird watching. Um, during the COVID era, I got my passion for photography back. So I like to do
Hmm.
photography. I create like greeting cards and things. And I have a cottage, so we spend lots of time at the lake at the summer when there's not a tournament going on.
Yeah,
Yes, those would be the things that I enjoy.
good.
Yeah, for me, it's just the people I'm around,
Yeah,
whether it's family, friends, friends like family. Just, I'm a social creature. So I love, now don't get me wrong, I love my own time.
Yes.
But I'm a social person. So, you know, the good friends and family you surround yourself with.
Good. I love it. For both of you in 2025 as we enter this new season.
Well, we will be competing in the five-a-side with hopes to go to Edmonton.
Yep.
See how that goes. Looking forward coaching wise, I'm hoping to have some more experience on the international stage, maybe at the AIC, who knows, maybe sometime in a year or so. Looking forward to doing some more coaching.
Good.
And I think probably building on what we tried to do last year, just in terms of having fun, you know, finding a new tournament or just to keep having fun and keep trying different things. Atlantic Bowl, it's in New Brunswick this year in St. John. We'd love to get there. So
Never played there.
yeah, so we'll be trying out for that as well.
Good.
Yeah, just looking forward to getting out there. And of course, we do have two artificial here in Nova Scotia, two artificial surfaces. So hopefully, if the weather changes and kind of stays more than a day or two.
Well, ladies, that's all I have for you today. Thank you, thank you, thank you for taking the time. I realize that you're probably about to hang up and like go to sleep because you're 3 hours ahead of Saskatchewan time. And I'm going to hang up and try and put my kids to bed. But again, I really value both of you. I've known you two forever, and talking about your Bulls journey in general is just, I think it's what people want to hear about because you've both made a good impact. And thank you. Thank you for taking this time. And I really hope to see you both in Edmonton this year too. So
Well,
take
thank
care of
you for the
yourselves, bowl well, and we'll catch you on the other side.
sounds
Thanks so
good.
much, Alex.
And the feeling is mutual, Alex. Thanks for the opportunity. And you've been a big part of our journey as well, you and Fran and all our friends from Saskatchewan. So thank you.
We really appreciate it. Thank you very much, folks. That wraps up our Behind the Bull segment. And good luck this summer, and we will certainly see you again on the other side. Take care.